Hello, folks. Once again, it is your boy Tim, and today we're going to be discussing Roe versus Wade. Is this returning rights back to the states, or is this a pathway to a total and complete abortion ban? Before we get into everything, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel as I always do, but let me make it clear, we're not here to try to sway any opinions on whether you favor pro-choice or pro-life decisions. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to discuss whether or not this is a pathway or a gateway to the Republicans, conservatives of course, banning abortion in all 50 states. So why is that even coming up? Is that the liberals fear-mongering again? Are they doing it for political capital, trying to bash the right? That's what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to give you some quotes and some statistics, and we'll let you go ahead and decide from there. And we'll answer the question at the end of the broadcast in the comments if you want to chat it out. Now, this is a quote. Now, remember, the opinion was leaked earlier this spring that it did appear to be as if the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Remember, this made big news. It was everywhere. But it was at that time an allegation that they were going to roll back Roe versus Wade. It had not actually happened. Now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was asked at that time, if they did roll back Roe versus Wade, could a national abortion ban even happen at all? And here is a quote from the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, May 8th of this year. If the leaked opinion became the final opinion, legislative bodies, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, certainly could legislate in that area. And if this were the final decision, and that was the point, that it should be resolved one way or another in the legislative process. And he concluded by saying, so yeah, it is possible. Now, that's Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell answering the question on whether a national abortion ban could even happen at all. His response, yes, it is possible. Now, obviously, Mitch McConnell doesn't speak for all Republicans, but he is indeed the Senate Majority Leader, and he's stating that it's possible. We're going to move on with other quotes, but I want to also bring to your attention, a lot of folks on the right are simply suggesting this is a states' rights issue because at the end of the day, the right to have an abortion was never in the Constitution. It was never a constitutionally protected right. So it's been vulnerable to begin with, which I want to let the right know, folks on the right side of the aisle know that by stating that abortion was vulnerable because it was not a constitutionally protected right, you're leading the liberals and Democrats to ask the obvious question. And that is, what other privileges are we enjoying today that are not constitutionally protected? Because based on this statement, that would mean those other privileges that we enjoy are also potentially vulnerable, such as the LGBT community's right or privilege currently to marry same-sex partners. Some might even go as far as saying interracial marriage. None of this stuff is constitutionally protected. So at the end of the day, we have to ask the question, are those rights and privileges, are they vulnerable as well? So I just want to point that out to anyone. And this is mostly to my friends and conservatives on the right that are constantly throwing around that abortion was never constitutionally protected. Other folks are also enjoying privileges and rights that are not constitutionally protected. So I want to mention that. Okay, now, in addition to Mitch McConnell, I also want to give you a quote by Mike Pence, former Vice President Mike Pence, and you can take this as you may. He too was speaking on the rolling back of Roe versus Wade. But unlike with Mitch McConnell, this quote from Mike Pence is only 3 days old. So this happened after Roe versus Wade indeed was rolled back by the Supreme Court. And here is that quote. By returning the question of abortion to the states and to the people, this Supreme Court has righted an historic wrong and reaffirmed the right of American people to govern themselves at the state level in a manner consistent with their values and aspirations. Now, that clearly falls along the lines of states' rights. Nothing wrong with that if you see it from a states' rights ploy. But he continues, now that Roe versus Wade has been co-signed to the ash heap of history, a new arena in the cause of life has emerged, And it is incumbent on all those who cherish the sanctity of life to resolve that we will take the defense of the unborn and the support for women in crisis pregnancy centers to every state in America. And he concludes by saying, having been given the second chance for life, we must not rest and must not relent until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. So keep that last sentence in mind. Until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state of the land. Or in the land. So that makes it clear that Mike Pence is indeed pushing for a national abortion ban. So what is the counter argument? Well, Mitch McConnell and former Vice President Mike Pence does not speak for all Republicans. Fair enough. Well, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Bernie Sanders does not speak for all liberals either. But that doesn't stop folks from trying to tie their quotes into the beliefs of all liberals. The only point we're making here is that these two gentlemen, Mitch McConnell and Vice President Pence, represent the upper echelon of Republican politicians. So the notion that there is no goal from the side of the conservative side of the aisle to implement a national abortion ban would lead one to question it based on the nature of the politicians suggesting it. That's all we're asking. So how will we even get a national abortion ban if that was even the goal? Well, coming from your humble correspondent, yours truly, that is quite easy to answer that. And that is getting the Supreme Court to define what actual murder is. Remember how under oath, Ketanji Brown, the latest Supreme Court appointee, was pushed to define what a woman is? She was savvy enough to realize if she answered that question, she would essentially eradicate transgender entirely. Because if you define what a woman is, the transgender community would fall victim to the answer. Well, whether you're talking Amy Coney Barrett or Brett Kavanaugh, they actually use the same tactic when questioned under oath about their opinion in regards to Roe versus Wade, which is why you have a lot of senators now, like Joe Manchin from West Virginia, suggesting that they were deceptive when questioned under oath. Because once again, just like Ketanji Brown, they realized that they were truthful about their intentions or their beliefs on Roe versus Wade, they may have not gotten appointed in the first place. So I just want to point that out to you. So how will we get a national abortion ban? Well, once you get the Supreme Court to define what murder actually is, and that question would derive from, is taking the life of the unborn inside of the womb, is that murder? And that would be your yes or no question. If you can get a 6-3 Republican majority on the Supreme Court to define that taking the life of the unborn is murder, which doesn't seem like a stretch. Once you can get that definition that taking the life of the unborn inside the womb is murder, then states that are abortion friendly, such as California, Illinois, and New York, where they are performing abortions, would be committing an act of murder, as defined by the Supreme Court, which would then make that procedure illegal in those states. That would lead to your national abortion ban. But right now, the definition of murder has not been adjudicated by the Supreme Court. That's a challenge that will likely come in the future. So I just want to run this by you, see what you guys have to think about it. Do you believe that a national abortion ban is even a dream of the right or the conservatives, or is it totally going to just be left at states' rights? Coming from yours truly, I certainly would take the word of Mitch McConnell and former Vice President Mike Pence to heart. I believe they have the mindset of most folks on the right who do want to protect the sanctity of life. After all, if you believe that taking the life of the unborn is murder, you're not going to be happy because somebody can go 30 miles down the road, cross a state line, and do it on the other side of the border. If you want to protect children, you're going to want to protect them where that life is being taken down the road. So I certainly, your humble correspondent, yours truly, believe that, yeah, we're probably headed towards a national ban on abortion. But I understand some of you folks disagree. We'll talk about it in the comments. Feel free to comment on the page, as I always ask. Like and subscribe. If you don't like it, feel free to hit the dislike. I'll catch you guys in the live streams.